All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Darren Franklin. I'm the creator of F42 Empowerment. I appreciate y'all being here. We're about to get finished so we can go to happy hour, right? Oh, that's it. I don't know. Haven't seen one? Hey, I understand. I understand. Look, I appreciate y'all being here. So look, this is going to be an interactive session, all right? So I just ask that you participate. You also have that handout. That's for you, all right? Feel free to write on it. If you don't want to write on it, I will get you a copy of it. When we finish, you'll get a little free bonus. So feel free to write on that and you'll have access to a blank one at the end of the session, all right? So with that being said, is like I said, this is interactive, right? So we're going to use a little technology and you're going to be able to write on paper. So if you can scan that QR code for me so that you can have access to the platform. Today, we're going to use the PCL method to empower students and impact staff, right? So I was privileged, as you're signing in, I was privileged last year to present when we were in New Orleans. And I met a couple of colleagues that I see here today and some more people that I've seen later on. And I actually did some work with BRCC with their summer program based on this conference. So you never know who's in the room with you, right? So always keep that in mind. Obviously, we're adults and we try to let our young people know that too. Always get to know one another. Has everybody had a chance to sign in? Good. So just a couple of agreements, right? I'm a former teacher, and you'll find that out a little later on. This is definitely not going to be a session where I'm just going to talk you to death. All right. So right from the jump, we're going to do something together. Actually, it's going to be the four of us. So y'all, the four. And I'm privileged to have my aunt with me here in Lake Charles. She's already made some connections and saw some familiar faces. It's always great to have people to support you, right? Especially your family. Yes. So any of these agreements, anybody feel uncomfortable with? Did I leave anything out that you suggest to make this a memorable experience?
I always just tell my students to have an open mind. It's okay to agree to disagree. But we don't have to argue. I would disagree.
There you go. Free of expression, right? And being able to respect that. I believe that too. Good. Well, I have an activity, right? So I remember last session, there was a lady, Miss Neal. She's from Southeastern. And the last session that I did last year, she was asking about, well, do you have any rapport building activities? And I said, I didn't bring one that last time, but I thought about it. I said, well, you know, as educators and you guys are impacting young people all the way up to young adults, if we can build that rapport and that trust with them, we find out that a whole lot of gates and doors open, right? I told you I'm a former teacher too. So I'm going to introduce you to an activity that you'll be able to have an option to purchase and use in your program, either with your students or with staff members that you may be developing as adults, okay? So this can be a round robin. It can also be a partner, or it could just be a one-on-one type activity. Today we're going to do a round robin, so we're going to kind of get together at a central location here in a second, all right? It's called Choose a Question, okay? So basically the way it works is this. We're going to use round robin. I'll start off with Ms. Barton, okay? Ms. Barton, you'll have a chance to be able to choose a question that's going to come up on the screen, okay, and you'll be able to ask someone within the group to answer the question, right? They give an answer. That person chooses another person, and then they choose a question and ask somebody else in the group to answer it, right? So you see, we can go around the room or around as you may have your students or your staff at a table, right? And you do a round robin with them. Does that make sense? Good. So which one are we going to choose today? How are we going to implement it? Round robin. I always want to make sure everybody understands what's going to happen. Anybody have any questions about how we're going to perform the activity? So this is what it is. It's called Choose a Question, okay? So each page will have 4 questions. And again, we're going to start off with Ms. Barton. Is everybody comfortable with the setup? Because the four of us are going to be the four of you all are going to be included. Everybody good with the setup? Everybody going to participate, right? Cool. All right, Ms. Barton, so you have a chance to ask the other three members any question that you want to ask them, but make sure you introduce yourself to the person that you're asking a question to.
Well, I think I know one I know people, so, hi, Kevis, Dr. Martin. One of my better accomplishments has been what?
I would say completing my master's degree. And the reason why I feel that way is because while I was in school, I got all the way to my senior year, and I did not pass the exit exam. And I mean, GPA was there. I had a 3.8 GPA, but I could not graduate because I missed that exit exam. And I was kind of you know how anybody would feel when you get all the way to that point and you've done everything that you could possibly do, and then they tell you because of this one test, you cannot graduate. So I stayed persistent. I actually, in my opinion, I felt like I helped others who were in the same boat as me. I helped them to stay on course, and I gave up, and we all completed the following semester. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Tell me your name one more time.
Akiva.
Akiva.
Yes.
Thank you, Akiva, for sharing. Now, Akiva, it's your turn. You get to choose another question,
Okay.
and you ask the next person in the room.
Okay. So I'm going to choose the person that I don't really know that I just.
So introduce yourself. Excuse me.
Miss Emily, my question to you is, a strength I have but don't use enough. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would honestly, I really cannot say, because all of my strengths, I try to use. I really do. I'm very vocal, I try to speak. I'm very knowledgeable in a lot of areas, and I try to educate others. I love learning, so I just keep learning. I won't ever stop learning. You know, I love to learn. But I can't think off the top of my head a strength that I have that I don't use.
Cool. Thank you, Akiva. And your name again?
Ebony.
Ebony. Ebony, it's your turn. It's your turn to choose a question to ask someone, and we're going around, so you would better ask.
What's she saying?
So you're a new participant.
That's honestly.
Yeah. We'll include this young lady. Tell us your name, please. Hibernia Kelly. So, Miss Kelly, look, we are performing the choose a question activity, right? It's a rapport building activity you can use either with your students or with your young adult or adult staff members within your organization. And we're performing it with the round robin, right? So the two young ladies have had a chance to already ask two of the questions. Now she's going to ask you the third question, all right? And she gets to choose.
Alright. I am very proud that
Anything.
I'm very proud that I'm a trio professional.
She's a trio professional. Good. Ebony, right? And Hibernia, right? So y'all met each other, okay? So Hibernia, you're gonna finish us off, all right? I know you came in right when we started, so I believe I enjoy is the last question to ask, right? So Hibernia, you're gonna ask Dr. Barton that question or that statement, and then I'll introduce yourself to her.
Dr. Martin, I'm Bernie.
Hi, I'm Bernie.
So, what do you enjoy?
I enjoy serving others.
Outstanding. Do you see how this could help your students first off? How? Give me an example of how this would help your students.
Definitely could be an icebreaker. Like didn't know each other, but we're learning each other's names, putting a face with a name. Sometimes hearing other people's stories, it kind of gives you the strength or the courage to open up a little bit more. So, or they may say something that you didn't think about, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, I went somewhere else and have run into stuff with talking about trio, and I just, so I was like, oh, it could have been all trio related when you look at the questions, but I didn't think about that when I first answered my question.
Good, good. So I appreciate that. Yep. Anybody else want to add on to that? Of how this might be able to help your students?
You can help the students in ways that they can, I guess, give them the confidence to lead in public speaking. That is always a challenge, trying to pull that out of them. That gives them that opportunity. I would play around with it and have some funny things, like a word of Blackwood. If you were stuck on a deserted island, what are the three things you would have?
Right.
And just watch how that conversation goes. And they're like, what? What you need? What 3 hours? What? I remember I did one similar to this in a class. And I think the guy said his cell phone, his dog, and his truck. He didn't want his wife and kids. Oh, so he wanted his cell phone, the dog, and the truck. I said, okay, whatever. If that makes you happy, just know the wife gonna have a good policy. She ain't worried about you coming back home.
Exactly, right? So so this is just one set, right? So obviously there are 5 other sets with all types of different questions or statements, right? Can anybody see this where you could use with adults that you may be leading or on the staff with?
Yeah.
How do you think adults would, and how would it impact adults?
Well, like, one of my better accomplishments, I have 3 ladies that work under me, and we have weekly meetings. Well, on the next one, the last one I gave them homework for the next one, the next one came. But I know she's strong in this area, she's strong in this area. Each of us teach her.
Yeah.
So we can get a better compensate.
Come on. Take a paper off the table for me, please.
That we all different, and we all know different things, or different things in more areas. So we put together, I team.
So again, with the students, right, it's getting them out their comfort, it's giving them some confidence. That's what I wanted to hear, to achieve, right? But then also, this is for staff members too, right? And you'll find out who I work with, both in both ranges. You just said something that's really big. And you're going to learn about what we're going to learn about today. Being able to assess the skill set and the capability of the people that you lead. Because as a leader, that's going to lessen your frustration. But when you don't know, now you're getting frustrated because you're trying to set a certain standard and they're just not able to, they're not capable of getting to that standard. And now you're frustrated learning why. So I want you to keep in mind that this is not only a rapport building activity for students, but also for adults. Because we know within the workplace or within any organization, trust is a big factor. Trust does affect our performance. And then as a leader, if someone can trust you, what I found out, especially when you're dealing with young people, once they trust you, they'll do anything you ask them to do. But are you intentional about building that trust? So as I mentioned to you, this is my business. If you're interested in purchasing those questions, they're on sale today and tomorrow only for $19.42, right? And you found some value in them already. You can scan that QR code just so you can have it if you're not ready to purchase it right now. But if you want to scan it so that you have it in your phone, you'll be able to gain it's about 24 to 30 questions and prompts that you can use within either your activities as a trio member or, as Ms. Ebony spoke, leading a staff of adults that you're just trying to find out about you're going to find out about some of their personal, right? You're going to find out about their capabilities. You might even find out about certain personal stories that now you'll be able to have as a leader to know that, okay, I can't touch that button. Or she might feel like this, he or she might feel like this in this environment. So I want to make sure as a leader, I can create that environment where everybody can win. All right?
That first question could also be used like a self-assessment. You could, like, versus me coming in with, like, saying what I think your strengths are. You kind of evaluate yourself
Thank you, Hibernia, because we also talked about within my classroom, I used to use this, right, as a one-on-one tool. So in my Beyond the Edge coaching program that I work with males ages 17 to 29, I incorporate this in my pregame routine. Yeah, they have a consultation form that they fill out, but just like Hibernia said, I'm trying to build as much rapport and trust with those young men that I'm coaching. So I'll go right to this choose a question activity because it's not harmful, it's less threatening. And for anyone that may have some trauma, you never know who you're working with, right? You're trying to find out how can I create that safe space for them to express what's inside that I need to know so that we can all be successful, right? As I mentioned to you, I'm a former educator. Now, some of these schools that you see up here, I've had a chance to bring the F42 empowerment experience to them. And then some of those schools I've worked there as an Algebra 1 teacher and as some type of athletic coach, right? So I'll point out a few things to you. Yes, that is me with that silver helmet on. In my younger days, I played professional football for the Oklahoma City Yard Dogs, arena football, right? And then underneath there, you see that maroon and gold. That is a prestige high school in New Orleans, McDonough 35 High School. Miss Barton, why you laughing? I'm messing with you.
We all said the same thing about all of our high schools.
No. 35 takes a whole nother.
She already know. She already know.
They all too. I mean, St. Mary's is prestigious, you know. Those two schools.
Find your husband.
Yes,
See that?
You know, 35, you know, St. Mary's does it because we're all girls, you know. They
Right.
still do it. They're not even named Xavier Prep anymore. They're named Catherine Drexel. So, yeah, it's funny to me because the culture that we grew up in, that's how we see things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we pick up on those things, that's like the first, whenever they say New Orleans people. Yeah, I'm not just talking about, I guess that's how New Orleans people act. We think we prestigious about everything.
Right. Right. So, you know, again, that's part of our culture, right? And just like this school up here at the top left, Langston University, that's where I went to college for my bachelor's in business and finance, right? Well, I realized once I got on campus, everybody didn't eat red beans and rice on Mondays. See, I'm the young dude from Gentilly Woods. I thought everybody ate red beans and rice on Mondays. Until I got out of side. But you got to understand now, I've never been outside New Orleans those 17, 18 years. Right? So in my mind, I'm like, hey, it's Monday. Why I don't smell no chicken or red beans and rice after football practice? Right? But again, think about some of your students or some of the young people that you work with, even some of the adults. If they haven't been exposed, then they're limited to sometimes just their zip code and area code. Right? So I just wanted to share with you all without giving you my resume. Some of those places are familiar to you. I did graduate from Xavier University with my master's in education. I didn't want to be a principal. I always wanted to be an athletic director. And I achieved that at Southwest High School in Fort Worth, Texas. You see me coaching again down in HL Bourgeois High School down on the Bayou. So anybody have any questions about any of and also with Trio, as I mentioned to you at the top right, did some things with them last summer would be our Baton Rouge Community College with their young people during the summertime, okay? So if you find value today and you want to find out how I can bring the F42 empowerment experience to your school, your TRIO program, or outside of your TRIO program, if you work at another organization, right, I'm able to do that, and I would love to continue the conversation. Today, we're going to identify who we lead, right? Ebony, correct? Ebony already picked that up, okay? We're going to identify who we're leading and how we can influence their potential using the PCL method. I believe there are 3 types of people in the room today. I believe we have the participator, the contributor, and the lifer, right? And I'm not only just talking about students. I'm talking about just human beings, okay? Some of us, again, we lead organizations or colleges or with departments, right? And then some of us also, we lead young people. And I'm going to show you how you can lessen your frustration, right? How you can be a dynamic leader and impact those students and also enrich and impact the staff. Now, I want to share with you about this gentleman named Paul. Now, Paul can be a male or a female, right? Paul is a participator, okay? Paul, as you see there on your sheet, some characteristics about Paul, right? And as I go through those characteristics and tell this story about Paul, that last blank space, I want you to just kind of write a name in. It's confidential because that's your paper. Once you kind of hear about Paul, I just want you to write a name in. You're going to talk to Paul a little later on, okay? So Paul is very reliable. He's been showing up to his job for multiple years. Paul has also been through all the changes of the organization. So he has a wealth of experience, right? Paul leader knows that he can count on Paul to show up no matter what happens, because he's been that figure within the organization for years and years. But one thing about Paul is he's going to do his job, and when it's time to go, he's going home. Now, don't ask Paul to do too much more outside that job description. You're going to get your feelings hurt, all right? But then Paul also, he has a wealth of experience that sometimes his leaders are just trying to, pull out and, hey, man, we got some new people coming on. Paul, with all this experience that you have, man, maybe you can do some training with them. But Paul just lets his leader know, no, I'm just a participator. Now, I'm going to do my job to the fullest. I'm going to give you extra effort in what I'm doing, right? But for some reason, Paul just won't go beyond that. He's cool with participating. Now, let me tell you about the Paul that I met. See, as a former head coach, there are all kind of kids on the sidelines that the kids that come and they play sports. Some of them, they cool with, they're not really worrying about if we win or lose. They just want to hang out with their friends. I call that a participator, right? See, some of the athletes that I used to coach, they just was looking forward to lunchtime so they could just sit at the table with the cool guys and all the girls smiled at them. But their coach knew they was going to show up no matter what and help out with the water. He was going to help out. He might mess up the drill a little bit, but he wasn't going to cause no trouble. He was a participator. And see, this type of person who I used to coach also on game day on the sideline, his mom and dad might be talking about why my baby not playing, but he was like, no, I'm not getting into that fire. I'm just here to participate. So now I want you to think about that kind of person in your organization. As I mentioned with Paul, they're really not trying to go outside of that description that they've been given. They're not really trying to get out of their comfort zone, right? But you know that they can add more value to the organization. See, that student that you work with, they have so much more potential than what they're showing you. You've had conversations with them. You've seen some of the things that they do, not just on the test, but you've seen them work. And there's just so much more that they can do, but they're very content and complacent of where they are. See, some of y'all already thinking about you seeing Paul right now. You need some more space to write some more names down, huh? Talk to me.
Okay, so my I don't know if it's a question, I think, but with Paul, if he's reliable, he's consistent, but I wonder, sometimes it could be something that happened on the job, whether you were burnt out or whether you felt like you were being overused, that made you step back and say, I'm not going above and beyond. So I'm gonna give an example. You go above and beyond, but you're not appreciated, right? You're not valued. So when it hits that I'm not being appreciated, what happens? You draw right, and you just remain that person. So when you were, describing Paul as the participator, I'm like, was he always a participator, or did he turn into a participator because he realized that I'm not being valued?
So it goes back to this band that I have, right? And you hit it right on the top. With this band, I can only stretch it what?
So much.
I can only stretch it so far. I done reached my capacity. And then as I'm talking to leaders now, we have to identify when our people have reached their capacity. What kind of environment are we setting, just like you talked about? Do we really care about the people we lead? Or we just ask them to follow a job description? See? Because now, if you're an elite leader, you're going to care about your people. You're going to be intentional about choosing those questions to find out what they're about, where they want to go. And that's another beyond the edge part of the framework that I come in and do with leaders. So yes, you're correct, right? Because some people can fall in different categories in different phases of their life. But I believe as leaders, if we can identify where they are, where they want to go, and where they come from, we can do a little bit more stretching and get them to go beyond where they are, right? Good. So it's good that you have your name there, but now the question is, and here's where we're going to participate on our phones, right? And if we need our QR code again, there you can, there you go, you can scan in for us. Y'all got it?
I think I lost it because I did the other card. Okay.
Everybody good?
Is the name supposed to pop in?
Mm-hmm. So you can use this in your classrooms too, right? So just think about it.
Oh, the name was supposed to pop up. You supposed to keep that name that popped up?
You can. It's up to you, right?
I changed it to my name.
I changed it to you.
Okay.
Good. Because all of us are confident in our shoes, right? But now I want you to think about your students. What did I just do? I just made it anonymous. So I'm fostering participation. And then I always tell the kids, don't tell me, oh, I put that as, hey, if I wanted you to do that, I would have asked you your name. Right? So what's the plan for Paul? You kind of already alluded to it, right? We might need to change the environment. But I want to see if you guys can type in, what's the plan to develop Paul? If Paul was in your organization and you were leading him, what would be the plan? Yeah, type it in for me.
Somebody didn't show up and another time one of issues and I needed, but
It's all good.
So I have this to do for you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Spread me too thin.
Too thin, huh?
Yeah.
Did it show up for you all?
Yes. Oh, yes, I did. Yeah.
So that question didn't show up?
Mine is showing up on mine.
Mhm.
It showed up on mine.
You were able to type in? There we go.
Okay, just for clarity. Okay, now that somebody else is up there, I can come to that.
See that? So think about your students now, right? So instead of everybody being quiet and you trying to figure out the answer, once somebody go up there, oh, I know what to do now. And now they're not embarrassing themselves. You done created a safe environment. You're not asking them for their name. Nobody's name popping up there. Right? And now the kid that you thought really wasn't engaged in what you're doing, you're going to better get this information too and see. Okay? You could also do this with young adults, right? You might be in a staff meeting. There may have been something going on within your organization that you want to keep everybody anonymous, right? You know what's going on, but you want to hear the details behind it, or you want to give somebody a chance to express themselves within their coworkers so that they can feel empowered. It's called Stream Alive. It's something, I mean, there are multiple things out there that you can do this with. Mentorship with a target plan of action. Yes. Finding out where they want to go. Individual assignments. There we go. Self-starting. Good. Anybody want to share or elaborate on anything that they see up there or have a question about what they see?
Like as a person, like someone that is not a self-starter, I found that helping that employee, like getting them into a routine. It might have taken 2 or 3 months, but just being like on a Monday morning, hey, this is a snapshot of the week, and just kind of making sure that those tasks are like in the same order and you have kind of the same routine weekly. And so now he expects to receive, that snapshot for the week. And just once we get into the routine again, the ball kind of starts rolling. Because I kind of feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but just this next generation of college students coming out, they're kind of all participate. They're not really self-starters. Like they really do like require explicit instruction. And you have to tell them what to do, how to do it. Like, and that was new. Like, I was just my director, and I'm like, this is new to me. Like, I don't know what you want me to do with this. So I kind of had to learn myself how to work with the new generation of college students coming up, because they're kind of off. Like I said, they start out as participators until you train them to, you know, to kind of be self-starters, but it takes work.
So, and I appreciate you, Hibernia, for expounding on that, right? You said some intriguing, you made some intriguing comments. Does anybody else want to comment on what she shared or can relate?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. Okay. Well, I agree with her because, you know, our parents kind of put us in a position to threaten us, and we were afraid of it. Now they're kind of borderline being the parent and gonna challenge what we tell them now. So they don't have a consequence. Like, we weren't worried about the consequences because we already knew the outlook was gonna get us straight in the choir stand and they way in the back of the church or whatever it was. But now the children today are not afraid of whatever the consequence is, and they don't have any repercussions because a lot has been taken from the parents to kind of implement the charge or the challenge or, you know, whatever they're going to get. So if we put them in that position and they're not expecting retaliation, well, not retaliation, but, you know, us, well, mama, I'm not going to do this if you don't, you know, whatever. So it's almost like, if we put them in a leadership and let them kind of use reverse psychology on them, we still kind of win. But not wanting to be the one that's the leader. They're afraid to step up because the peers are not doing it.
Yep.
So it's like, I'm not going to be a leader, but I'm going to be in the crowd. When we were coming up, it was be leader because my mama said, right.
Yep.
We got to hear it, you know, so.
Good. Dr. Barton, you want to comment?
I think it's the structure has shifted. When we were, like she said, when we were growing up, it was different, but this age is more of participator because the structure has changed, because we gave them options and not required them to do certain things. And I think that has been the issue, because I also have an issue that I work with at my church. And we just recently had the Black History program. Unfortunately, I was on the road. That's one of the programs that I do. And one little girl came into me last Sunday before last. I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, excuse me? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I said, I didn't know it was an option for you to do. I said, so who gave you the option to say you don't want to do it? And her mom came, the mom came and told me, I said, she was doing fine, you know, but I discovered she had issues at home. So everything that was happening at home, she was no longer staying with mama, she was staying with great-grandma. So her structure shifted.
There you go.
Yes, she's staying with
There you go.
great-grandma. No, my great-grandma stayed everything fine.
Right. Not necessarily. Right. So, Hibernia, thank you. Ms. Burton and Dr. Barton, thank y'all for sharing. I do want to go back to Hibernia's comment, right? So as the leader, you did something that hopefully other leaders are absorbing and implementing, right? Number one, you showed you cared about the person, right? To make sure that they have an environment where they could get a chance to succeed, right? And then number two, you perform with some extra effort because you're the leader, right? So I applaud that. And hopefully that young person or those young people are grateful for the extra efforts that you guys are putting in place. Good. So remember I said there were 3 types of people in the room, right? I'm a former math teacher, as I shared. How many more people we got to go? 2 more. But I don't want to wait to the end because I'm quite sure they're going to come in and be like, hey, you got to go.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, all right.
We know that the schedule is kind of over, but after this, we have a little break. So.
Okay, cool. Well, you'll better get some feedback at the end, right? So I'm going to keep going. Let me tell you about the next person, Kathy. All right. So you see some characteristics about Kathy. Kathy is the kind of person, she's a contributor. Okay? Now, with Kathy, I'll tell you a little story about Kathy. Kathy's been at her job, and tell me your name one more time. Akiva. Akiva mentioned some burnout. Kathy's within her organization. She is kind of feeling not the burnout, but just some internal and external stress, right? Because she's a contributor. She's very reliable. She always has different ideas to bring to the table. Sometimes she's heard and sometimes she's not, right? But Kathy also is a person that she wants to grow within the organization, but at the same time, she wants to be able to take her time because we all at different developmental levels, right? So sometimes Kathy feels pressure to be able to go into these higher roles, but that's not really what she wants to do. She's able to contribute to the organization very well, right? But where does that come from? Dr. Barton shared with us about a student home life. See, one thing about Kathy, when she was raised as the only child. She had parents who helped her and molded her to understand that, hey, you always have to contribute, where it was only them three in the home, right? But they also taught her that Kathy didn't have to always be selfish and it wasn't always about her. So she's carried those principles and philosophies throughout her life and into the organizations that she's in now. That's why she's a contributor, because her parents have taught her how to do that, right? But Kathy also understands that she wasn't pressured by her parents to get to a certain standard or a certain level. They allowed her to achieve and do the things that she needed to do at her pace. So now it's like sometimes when you may have that employee who's performing at a high level and you're trying to get them into management and they're like shying away, and then you wonder why did they leave? Why are they disgruntled? Why are they reluctant to go beyond the edge? Because sometimes they're cool with their role. They know how to star in their role and just be a contributor. See, she brings different ideas, right? She might be that young person that's trying to help Paul out to be able to understand that, hey, you could use this type of technology, or this is how things are evolving. Kathy's a contributor, right? So if you could fill in, who's Kathy in your organization? See, Kathy also could be a student that you're working with. Kathy has told you where she wants to go and the things that she wants to do, right? But at the same time, she doesn't know how to contribute to that navigation of where she wants to go, all right? If it's a student. If it's another adult that you're working with, fill in for me. And then I want to be able to ask you, what's causing her reluctance to be able to grow, right? Or have advancement? What's causing her reluctance? You should be able to see that question on your phone. Anybody need the code again? Kathy's very consistent, and she definitely is clear about her role. Doesn't have any support. And this is almost like a one-word deal, right? What's a one word that's causing her reluctance to advancement? She might have family issues, right? These are all the different things that you're identifying on a daily basis within your organization. Self-confidence.
I'm scared to spend the money. Because they watch, we have.
Can you expound on that if you can?
So, for example, my budget right now has $300,000 in it. And I know if I was, the students that we're dealing with, they would be excited to have the hats, the jackets, the paraphernalia. And I'm thinking, if we need to expose our children, especially the ones that we've chosen or selected to be in our programs, and that other children see them wearing this paraphernalia, they're not even worried about the information that they're getting from us, but they're worried about, the excitement of, you got a sweatshirt, you got a jacket, you get a book bag, you get a towel, you get an umbrella, But then I'm thinking that's gonna pull my retention my people who come in to sign up so I can get my retention high and see that we're utilizing the money that the federal government's given us. But then it's a pullback on, okay, we can't just give these kids this and then they're not gonna come back. We give it to them the first day, they go on, the next, they're not gonna show up with it or whatever. Then they go rob a bank and got our hat on. So they went way left, and I'm trying to get them in. I'm like, well, I need to, because I'm not gonna go to a restaurant if you're not showing me what y'all had.
Exactly.
I need to see the menu.
Yeah.
So I need them to see my menu, what I'm serving, for them to come. I want you to eat at my table, look what I got. So you can't be, it's just a different. So the mindset, of course, is different. So I'm not trying to, I guess, like our parents told us, look, I'm not your friend. Don't play with me or whatever.
Mhm.
But a little bit, we got to get on their level, not really to see. We want to see what they see, but also take them to where we saw. So that's how I look at it. No, I thought the point was, I thought you said it was for the kids. Right.
So
Get the kids laptops. I can bend some free time. I can
that's
spend their money. I told them.
that's what I was about to say. It's like, I think with that idea, right, and what you've noticed and observed
Right.
is not only are you trying to speak that language, but all right, you the adult. You understand where they're trying to go. And you have an opportunity to use your influence and your impact versus controlling them, right? So it's not that you necessarily trying to trick them, but you're trying to let them know that, hey, we see you, right? We want to make it an environment for you to be able to come on and contribute to your success within this pathway of this TRIO program. So I hope that you're able to find a way to convince the powers that be that, yes, all teenagers like T-shirts, hats, hoodies, all of that, right? And you just teach them, like, listen, we want you to wear this and have some pride about it. So keep in mind when you're wearing this, make sure that you're making the best decisions that represent what you're wearing. Because if y'all can show us this, then we'll come to you and say, hey, what y'all want for next year? But everybody is not, but that's why you're here. Good.
Look, I'm acting like Sarah.
Like Paul, you just stay in your lane, huh?
Okay.
I got you. Don't do that. Don't do that. We want you to continue to contribute like Kat, and don't get burned out either, right? Our next person is Leo, right? Now, Leo is a lifer. And what you're going to see about Leo is not only is he committed, but Leo is an overachiever, right? Sometimes we look for Leo and it's like, I'm not going to say the perfect student, but sometimes in the education realm, some people like to work a little bit more with Leo versus a Paul, right? And I'll tell you why. So Leo, he's one of those focused individuals. See, Leo knew where he wanted to go and what he wanted to do at a very early age. Leo knew that he was going to get into the fine arts, right? He knew after being exposed to a stage play his grandfather brought him to, right, that he wanted to get into acting and into the fine arts at an early age. So he knew that when he went on and finished up high school, he was going to go to the East Coast and work on his stage presence, right? His own Broadway type deal, okay? He already knew where he was going. And after he finished that and gained those experiences, Leo wanted to go to the West Coast because he remembered his grandmother showing him those different TV shows when he was a little baby. He was smaller, right? A little boy. And all the excitement that she got of those TV shows and what it did to him. So he wanted to go to Hollywood and get those experiences on the West Coast. But then Leo was from similar place where we're from, and he wanted to come on back home to South Louisiana so that he can get his musical skills going, right? Well, Leo was a lifer within the fine arts. See, some of you ought to nod in your head because that may have been you, right, at an early age. Not necessarily just in that category of employment or career, right? But some of you are nodding your head because you see that in some of your students. Well, I want to share with you where Leo got that from. See, Leo, he wasn't raised by his parents. See, I talked about his grandparents. Unfortunately, his parents, they just didn't make it. So Leo had to be raised by his grandparents. And some of our students are raised by their grandparents, great-grandparents, right? But Leo had a good set. And in the rural areas that he grew up in, his grandfather never allowed him to use that excuse of him not having parents. He always pushed him, and they always did an awesome job of exposing him to beyond where he was. Hence, he learned about being on stage, right? And then he learned from his grandmother of where those shows were taped so that he can understand of how he can get on the big screen, right? But then Leo also learned this at an early age and throughout his life to make him a lifer. He learned how to serve. He learned how to take care of different people who may not have some of the things that he may have had, right? So Leo became a lifer. And what he did was, because of all those experiences that he had as a teenager and as a young man and as an adult, he honored his grandparents by coming back to his hometown and creating a fine arts center. See, he was a lifer. He understood that I had to go get acquire a certain amount of knowledge and experiences so I can come back and serve my community. That's the one thing that his grandparents asked him to do. Continue to learn how to serve others, right? So with that being said, think about some of the people in your organization who are very close to being lifers. But do they always think it's about them? Or are they able to expound on what they've been gifted and serve others and pick up the participators like Paul and help out the Cathys? Some of your students that you're working with, you see the biggest potential for them to go way beyond where they are, way beyond the edge. And they could be a Leo, but they just need a little bit more help from you to expose them to some of the things that they need to navigate that path. One thing I believe is this. A lot of our young people, and I'm not just talking about teenagers, right? A lot of our young people, as you talked about with the conforming aspect of it, right? Unfortunately, they understand that a lot of society is about controlling them. It's just how the system's set up. I believe that the people in this room and at this conference, we should be interested in developing people. Just like Leo, just like Kathy, and even Paul at certain points, right? There's a big difference between trying to control somebody and develop. Gotta better have, like Ebony said, understanding their capabilities and their skill sets, right? Being able to set up certain things for those individualized success stories. Because at some point, your students may fall in all three of those categories that we talked about today. In fact, you'll find out when you flip the paper over, right? I'll ask you, where did you fall? And we'll get to that in a second, right? Because we've lived enough life. So we understand. And that's where, whenever you leave this, that's why I want you to be able to understand and take with you. How are you going to use your impact and your influence to develop the people that you either lead or the people that you're influencing, okay? So with Leo, right, the last thing I want you to be able to share with us is, what's going to be your impact to help him serve others? The guy that I talked about, his grandparents were the ones that impacted him to serve others. What are you going to do with the power and influence that you have on Leo? The Leo that you wrote down on your paper. Good. Whenever we give kids the opportunity to lead their peers, you'll see all kind of light bulbs go off.
That's really what they want, be in position.
Some of the schools I taught at, I had to find out who the leaders were real quick.
They would have a power.
The faster, I always share that with younger teachers. Find out who your leaders are in your classroom, and it's not always the bad kids either. Exposure and experience. Good. Would anybody like to elaborate on your influence on the Leo that you're thinking about, or the name that you wrote down on your paper?
I'll talk about the young man that I used. He's 11th grade. The parents are, I don't know what the parents are. But the dad sees NFL player. The mom sees the dad. This my son. We're not together, but I want to, this is the part that I see. Now he's 11th grade, 12th grade. The high schools, the agents, scouts or whatever, coming to see him play. So now he's, I want to say it would be mama, but he gets education, he can get her to school. So I used him because he wants to, he's spread it. So he wants to satisfy mama. He the oldest. I want us out the ghetto. But my daddy, that's my boy. So, but then when he gets around his friends, he's the third person.
Yeah.
Right. So, but when he's with me, it's the son that he wants from both of the parents. So I say, well, you gotta make your mind up. I say, so let's look at it like this, the whole pictures, of seeing how it can play out and telling him, we gotta take care of you first. So get your education and do that. See the satisfied dad. But guess what? If NFL don't fall or college don't fall back, you get a full ride in college. Mama gonna be happy and dad gonna be happy. Now dad is more than the paraphernalia, you got his number on. But mama took him all 11 years, to here. So now he feels I owe my mama more. I owe my daddy. Daddy gone, and so it's like he's trying to pull them together because of what they both see in it.
Yeah.
But now his mentality is, let me focus on getting my mom and my daddy together. He ain't worried about school. I'm playing hard. I'm working out hard so I can go to school. Well, not school. So I can go to NFL. My dad gonna be happy he gonna come back home. Mama gonna be happy. We got the NFL, everything together.
And the NFL as his way
To bring the family
to
together.
win the family,
Mhm.
to also, they're putting in his head that is his meal ticket, that is his golden ticket, to get him where he needs to be.
Yep.
And instead of talking to him about what he thinks his golden ticket is, they're putting in their head their golden ticket, their expectations, and not allowing him to have.
Because the family is not his responsibility.
It's responsibility.
Right.
And the first thing I said was, do you enjoy football? He said, yeah, I ain't going, kind of, like, now I feel like football because I got to work and I got to study and then I'm trying to do everybody going through this or whatever. So, and of course they call me an auntie because I kind of, I guess they think I'm a kid or not. But I was like, okay, I can be, he said, T, I don't feel like playing ball, but, Dad got my shirt on. So he feels some type of way because now he's exposed. He feel like I'm not just the man of the house, but I'm, doing this, I'm making this happen. So then that's when I realized, okay, so if I give him this potential, when we get together, just for example, we just went to Trio Day in New Orleans. Totally different thing. I say, I can't say his name. Bob. I said, look, I need you to get these kids to sign. I said, yeah, I gotta pass out these vouchers. I said, look, Bob and them over there playing. I told him sign. I say, they're not gonna get a meal ticket. They, hold on, Miss B, I got you. AT say sign. And look, before I knew it, he had to pass out all the tickets. Right. CT, let me know what you need. I said, I got it. And then this thing say, and pull your pants up. So then, it's like he started to get them or whatever, involved. But then too, as soon as we drive back on campus, I'm here. All right, I'm gonna see. I'm gonna call my dad and tell him you gave him control. Taking care of everything.
Yeah, you gave him,
Give him control in that moment.
and that's what he yearns for.
And that's what he wants.
Yeah.
And when he had that control, he shined.
Mhm.
And so when he got home, he doesn't have that. See,
Right.
Yeah.
And you would think that he has a shine, but he has a shine in a different way because they given that authority to him, but it's like a mandatory authority.
Mhm.
This one is a if,
Yeah.
he'll benefit from it. So
Well, it's good that, you know, he has someone like you, right?
Okay.
Because honestly, I'm quite sure we all know that this story could be turned a whole different way if you didn't have someone like you. So as we come to a close, we want to find out where are you, right? I think some of us kind of talked about it. You may be a participator right now, a contributor, a lifer, or some of us even talked about being able to be in all different categories throughout our life. So if you just give me some data real quick, and that's something for you to reflect on that backside for you personally after typing that in. Good. Would anybody like to expound on what you see on the screen as far as a participator, contributor, or lifer? Somebody took it away?
it took that life for a way real quick.
Is within the organization, is it okay to be in all three roles?
I think
Yeah,
sometimes
I think
it
so.
does.
Right.
It does depend on what's going on, like what's going on with the task, even your mental health, because it may not always be work related, it could be personal, and it's shifted over to work, and it's causing you to not be one or the other. So, yeah, and everybody don't know how to, distinguish leave home at home and leave work, and it overlaps sometimes. And especially when we deal with our students, because if we see something that trickles over to home because the student don't have no private Wi-Fi for their students sometimes. And then you have to tell yourself, I have to step back because I can't be the savior for everybody. So that causes another, issue within itself.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I would say this. My background is in counseling. And even in this profession, I do feel like we do need counselors just for us sometimes. Sometimes we need to debrief.
Yeah.
So I am a firm believer. I do have a counselor that I go to because I have to dump this on somebody. So I can't just carry the load of doing this. And when you have been doing this for years, you have to dump the load on somebody else because it becomes overbearing sometimes. So I tell people all the time, if your job does not have a counselor on site, you may want to see if your insurance will cover you to get a counselor because sometimes
EAP. Use that EAP, right? So if you guys could, I appreciate all the engagement, right? That's what we talked about in the beginning, being able to participate. If you guys just give me some feedback, right? If you found some value today, right? You'll have another opportunity with that paper to continue the conversation, because as you're providing that feedback, keep in mind that I work with males ages 17 to 29 who are determined to be successful, right? And together we build a personal success strategy. Not only just myself and that young man, but also working with people like yourself or some of your directors who want to bring in different outside agencies or outside people with different perspectives, right? To come in and work with not only young men, but also the young ladies also.